pitched the idea that Tuan and I have been talking about simply because you guys are really the target audience. So we'd love to get your feedback on what we've been talking about so far. So the idea stemmed from a class that Steve Blank is teaching down in California. It's called the Lean Launchpad. I'm not sure if anyone here is, if everyone's familiar with Steve Blank or if they follow around along with his work, but in terms of the lean startup circle, he's sort of a guru. So he's, renowned, he's looked up to. He does a lot of great things. He's an excellent educator and instructor. So down at his course, he's taken on an innovative approach to trying to teach entrepreneurship to the students down there. Instead of having it largely based off of theory, he wants to have a really practical component where the students do come in once a week and get a theory and a lecture, but they also are encouraged, and actually it's part of their grade, to go outside of this classroom and talk to customers, to build a prototype and to find out where the revenue lies, where the success lies down the road. So they're looking for that executable and actionable business model that they can take and bring into the future and actually make it into a company. So he has a blog that he writes about this. So Tuan and I were reading this and said, this is great. I wonder if there's an opportunity for us to bring a similar concept, a similar framework to Vancouver. So there's a lot of events that are weekend oriented. You come and you do a hackathon over the weekend. You build a prototype of something in one weekend. Startup weekend, maybe you guys have heard of 54 hours to take an idea from conception to completion. Yeah. So we're thinking with this one is actually taking a similar framework but stretching it out. So it's about 5 weeks. So we're thinking of bringing in an instructor who would be experienced in teaching lean startup methodologies, who's familiar with something called the Business Model Canvas. It's Alex Osterwalder wrote a book about it. So it's just a tool to help you brainstorm and conceptualize what your actual business model is so you can go out and test it. We'd have someone who would come in and specialize in teaching those aspects of the different stages of the business model. So what is your revenue model? Who are your customers? What are your value propositions to these customers? How are you going to reach them? Who are you going to partner with? So what Tuan and I have been talking about is we essentially came up with our own business model for this course. It's a condensed version of Steve Blank's 10-week one, where each week we talk about a new component of the business model. So whether it's your revenue model, whether it's the value propositions that you're offering to people, whether it's the customers you're trying to target, whether it's the partnerships, how much the cost is going to cost you. So there's different components to the lecture. And then once that component's talked about in the lecture, you're encouraged with your team that was formed at the very beginning. So sorry, I should go back. It's going to start off with a socializer where ideas will be pitched and teams will be formed. And then you'll start with your business model. And every week, once there's a lecture, say on value propositions, what are you actually offering? What value are you bringing to your potential customers? You and your team will go out and try to validate that. Is that the right value proposition? Is there a problem that we're solving? Will customers pay for that? And then each week you come back and you report. Here's what we learned. Here's what we verified. Here's what we need to change. And then we'll jump into a new lecture, say revenue model for your customers. You'll take that information, you'll head back outside again. You'll talk to the customers, you'll build a prototype, you'll test it with them. So it's a really hands-on approach as opposed to just theory, as opposed to in one weekend being just inside with your team. You're really getting out, you're really talking to customers, and you're finding out how this is going to be bought and all that stages. So we want to present it to you guys and find out, do you guys find value in this? Would you go to that? Would you pay money for it? How much? I saw your hand go out first, Brian.
I paid $2,000 to do that for 13 weeks at SFU. Exact same thing, exactly what you just talked about in my course. I've done it. I've actually gone in and this is what I meant by I go to school, I came up with an idea, and then as soon as the course finished, it died because it was for marks. Okay. But I took the exact same class, and it's brilliant.
Okay.
I loved it. It was 13 weeks. Well, because in a semester at SFU is 13 weeks. I loved it. I don't know if 5 weeks is long enough, and I think it's a great idea. Just who are you looking to target, and how do you make money?
Well, if we charge for the course, we
Okay.
make money because,
Right.
we think we need to pay for an instructor.
Okay.
We want to have that value there.
Yeah.
And another thing was we'd want to each team up with mentors, whether they're angel investors or whether they're just experienced people who have been through it.
That pay for the course, or to interrupt, that the investors pay for the course. I mean, they want to meet the early.
I had that same exact
Yeah,
conversation
Fish mentioned that earlier today.
that the value is actually not charging people to come in, because otherwise that's a block right there. You want to get people in, it's the Y Combinator model. Get the people in, have them, sort of live their 10, 13 weeks, whatever it is, with this team, build all of those products, do multiple hackathons in there, get some products out there, and then, get those things funded.
But Vish would say it's not scalable.
It is scalable
It is.
because, a Y Combinator is scalable today. It started with, 25 companies that they had a limit on. Today they do 250 companies.
If that's something they've done in total, but they still only accept like the 20 or whatever it is per semester.
That's because of quality, right? Because otherwise you're going to have like everybody. So there is a screening criteria. So that's another way to sort of look at it. Screen it and, get the right sort of folks in. That you got to make some decision.
Yeah.
Right, because otherwise it's an expensive course for somebody who just wants to pick it up.
Is that more, as you being the potential audience, entrepreneurs who are looking to start businesses, is that more valuable to you guys? Would you be more, you'd obviously be more willing to come into a free course where an investor's willing to fund you?
The barrier to entry should be just proving your worth, right? You should be able to, you have to qualify for this course.
Qualified?
Yeah. Good model.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that in terms of setting a price point, I paid $300 for a program called Ace Tech, which is government backed, and theirs was it tended to be much more. They talk about business model canvas and that stuff, so they hit on a lot of things you brought up, but it did have sort of like a more of a one. I think it was skewed a bit to an older generation of folks who were running it. And that was like very evident, but it was kind of it was angels. It was like they were our mentors basically. And then if it were a little bit more like YC, and if you could figure out how to pull that off in
YC Vancouver.
Yeah, I don't know. Just like if you could be at the middle of
There
it.
is a market for that.
Yeah,
There's a
oh,
market
absolutely.
for that, and that's where syndicated angel investment makes the most sense, because go out and syndicate it with 10 other people, bring them in, and that's how you scale.
And I'll be in your founding class. So don't worry about it.
That's funny you mentioned it, because starting May 9th, we actually have this thing that is called minimum viable everything. Like minimum viable product is one of the core concepts of Lean. It's a 6-week course that we're putting together where we're at. The one thing that differentiates, I didn't think of the idea of having teams, but it's a great idea. We are offering it for free for people to attend. We actually ran into the exact problem that a lot of you guys are describing right now. Tons of people piled in and signed up, and we're like, shit. Like, then we have to like backtrack and like, all right, appreciate all the interest, but we have to have some sort of screening process. And the way it worked out is one guy who had been a faculty at a university, he branched off to do his own business, which had to do with training. So he had a vested interest in putting a curriculum together. So he's doing the curriculum pro bono as well. So it's kind of like free all the way around, and he's got enough connections that in the 6th week, he's going to have like a panel of angels come in to hear about the projects that they've gone through. He's doing it with his business partner. We've decided that we're going to strip it down to between 15 and 20 people. We're going to so that people can realistically get some one-on-one time to work in that kind of scenario. Again, first time we're doing it, I have no idea how it's going to work out necessarily. We've done other digital media courses in the past, but this is the first time we've done something focused on entrepreneuring.
Are you making money or?
No, we're not. I mean, but on that note though, I mean, there's a lot of, just in terms of we've been doing stuff like this for the past couple of years, and it's really allowed us to become a notable factor in our business. People know us as a technology agency, but they also know that we do all this ridiculous community stuff at our Spirit Center as well. On that note though, just to mention, like, It seems to be, again, I don't know how anecdotal this is, but it seems to be a pretty common trait that about 85 to 90% of people that study entrepreneuring in post-secondary institutions don't become entrepreneurs. But a scenario like this, where people are, putting their nose to the grind, like customer development, like going back to the Steve Blank thing, like it's so vital. And the whole thing about lean is not coming up with a good idea, but being able to iterate it frequently enough that you come up with an idea that works before you run out of money. Right.
Cycle, yeah.
And so you can only do that by getting your hands dirty. There's nothing that a book cannot show you how to fail.
So that's what we want to do. We want to really focus on that.
Really?
And just in the sake of time, we'll cut it off. But we'd love to hear your guys' feedback. So either come up, talk to myself, or talk to Tuan. We're just in the stages of hashing out our own ideas, and now we really want to come to the customer development stage and talk to everyone and hear your guys' feedback. So everything's appreciated.